And then Caitlyn tries to reach for... Oh! Salon got her in the face with an elbow. Salon got her with an elbow there.
This was a physical game. This was a physical game on both sides. Shout out to Caitlyn Clark. She didn't back down today. She did not back.
Fans allegedly want extra punishment for Danielle for the sly elbow that nobody took notice of. One split-second moment has now set the internet on fire after Danielle Salon's elbow on Caitlyn. Clark slipped past the officials entirely, as if it never even happened in real time. How does a moment this visible get missed at this level? Was it pure accident or something more deliberate hiding in plain sight? And why is this one place splitting the entire conversation wide open?
I'm telling you that. Hello, Earth to Angel McCautry. Hello. We've been telling you the only reason this league is lit right now, the person that got it jumping is Caitlyn Clark. And y'all have been in such denial, and it's nasty work that y'all keep lying and trying to make it seem like it's everybody else. Our point has been proven. The point was proven a long time ago. The numbers jumped when she got here.
The clip didn't look like much at first glance. Just another messy sequence in a physical game where bodies collide and everyone keeps running like nothing happened. But within hours, it turned into one of those moments. The internet refuses to let die because somehow what looked like a simple scramble for position has now escalated into a full-blown debate about missed calls, fairness, punishment, and whether the consequences on the court are starting to feel very different depending on who you are and who you are defending.
I don't know who upset Caitlyn Clark, but they need to apologize right now. This woman pulled a fast break three from the logo, cashed it, nothing but net, and then got in the defender's face and said, "Do you like that?" In the past, we'll see Caitlyn Clark go at somebody with her teammates behind her back. Nah, she went at the entire squad by herself. She's not ducking anybody right now. And rightfully so. Do you see how she started off the season? First 5 games, 25 boards, 7 assists, 24 4 boards, 9 assists, 32 4 and 10, 21 7 and 10, 22 2 and 9.
A microscope so intense that every dribble feels like it has commentary attached to it. And Danielle Salon, WH. What makes it even louder is that the incident involves Caitlyn Clark, a player who already plays under O's name suddenly jumped from a box score into a storm of replay breakdowns and social media arguments that refuse to settle.
And then Burton comes in and shoves her. Caitlyn's obviously there. Caitlyn gets dragged away. And Caitlyn's doing the fake tough guy, like, let me at him when you know there's too many bodies in there. But Salon got her with an elbow. Just saying. Salon got her there with an elbow. Salon absolutely got her with an elbow. Absolutely. No question about that. I'm looking through the clip again. Salon got her with an elbow.
A microscope so intense that every dribble feels like it has commentary attached to it. And Danielle Salon, WH. What makes it even louder is that the incident involves Caitlyn Clark, a player who already plays under O's name suddenly jumped from a box score into a storm of replay breakdowns and social media arguments that refuse to settle.
Injuries, not because of Paige Beckett, not because of nobody else, but Caitlyn Clark. The damn ratings dropped by more than 50% last season when the girl was hurt. Now you're mad. You're mad that because when they announced that she was hurt, nobody wanted to go to the games no more. Thousands of people decided they're not going. So what? They don't have to go. They don't have to go if they don't want to. You're still in denial.
But silence is where everything starts to spiral, because fans did not just see a physical play, they saw a missed decision. And once people decide something was missed, the game itself stops being just basketball and becomes a courtroom, where every angle is evidence and every replay is treated like a confession waiting to happen. The conversation quickly shifts from what happened to why it was allowed to happen without intervention, and that is where the controversy really begins to breathe. What makes it even more combustible is that this did not happen in isolation. The buildup shows repeated contact, frustration growing on both sides, and bodies leaning into each other as possession changes hands. Then comes the key moment that fans keep replaying, where Salon's arm motioned toward Clark becomes the focal point of debate. Some see it as incidental movement in traffic, others see it as something far more intentional, and the internet, as always, refuses to meet in the middle. From there, the reaction spreads faster than the play itself. The loudest demand online is not just that a foul should have been called, but that stronger punishment should follow after the fact. The word suspension starts circulating heavily, not as an official statement, but as a fan-driven demand that grows every time the clip is slowed down and rewatched.
Everybody is arguing whether or not Caitlin Clark was soft or dirty, but if you only focus on the contact, you're missing a key moment in the game that flipped the entire game. Because this was not Caitlin Clark getting picked on. This was Caitlin Clark taking it personal. Both teams were physical. Golden State brought contact, Indiana brought contact. But most importantly, Caitlin Clark also initiated contact, which completely changed the entire game. She got into it with Janelle Salam before halftime. She had words with Tiffany Hayes after a deep three. Then in the fourth quarter, she gets called for a flagrant foul screen on Veronica Burton. You may think the physicality was the entire story, but in all reality, it was.
In this version of events, a simple missed call is no longer enough to close the book because people are now arguing that if the contact had been seen clearly in real time, the outcome would have been far more serious than just a whistle. And that is where the frustration deepens, because instead of clarity from officiating, the game continued. And what followed only made the situation feel more chaotic. As the play moved on, Clark did what she has done repeatedly. Under heavy defensive pressure this season, she kept playing through contact, she kept moving the ball, and she kept forcing defenses to adjust to her presence even when they clearly planned to make her night uncomfortable. There is a pattern that fans and analysts keep pointing out, where she is frequently matched physically and often sees multiple defenders collapsing on her as soon as she crosses into scoring range, turning possession into a constant chess match where she is rarely allowed a clean look. Yet despite that attention, she still produces moments that shift momentum, whether it is a sharp pass through traffic, a deep shot under pressure, or simply drawing defenders out of position long enough for her teammates to capitalize. That part of the story often gets buried in the controversy, but it remains central to why every physical matchup involving her draws so much attention, because the intensity is not occasional, it is constant.
Hey, somebody call the president. Where's Caitlin Clark? Have no fear. Caitlin Clark is here, y'all. Come on, man. MVP mode unlocked tonight. Hey, Tiffany Hayes, thank you. Salon, thank you for unlocking the beast in CC. Come on, man. Hey, this play right here. Main thing I want to look at right here. Main thing. And then another one. That was a beautiful pass, by the way.
Then comes the part that has added even more fuel to the fire. Shortly after the incident, frustration from Clark's side of the court boiled over in a way that led to a technical assessment, and that decision immediately split the audience. Some argue that she reacted in the heat of the moment after repeated contact and emotional escalation, while others believe that officials had no choice but to penalize the response based on visible gestures and confrontation during the sequence. What complicates it further is the perception among fans that reacting gets punished faster than initiated contact in the first place, which creates the feeling of imbalance that now dominates the discussion. And, of course, once officiating enters the conversation, everything becomes more complicated. Referees are now at the center of the debate, not just for what they called, but for what they did not call. Fans replay the sequence frame by frame, pointing out how quickly bodies converged, how fast contact escalated, and how little interruption occurred during the most chaotic seconds.
Clark is fifth in assists, second in assists, and third in three-pointers made. Averages. She is third in points per game, first in assists per game, and first in three-pointers made per game. She's the only player to rank top 5 in all 3 categories right now. Now, I understand it's 5 games, and yes, she's turning over the ball a lot, but she's hooping, and the Indiana Fever are winning. And that was just this season, but we also got to remember, through her first 3 years, this is her 3rd year, 2nd year she didn't play a lot. Through her first 57 career games, she has more points than Teyana Taurasi. She has more assists than anyone. She has more threes than anyone. Now,
in fast-paced basketball, there is always room for human error, but the argument online is not about a single missed whistle. It is about whether patterns of physical play are being consistently interpreted the same way for all players on the court. That is where the criticism intensifies, because once consistency becomes the question, every previous game gets dragged into the conversation as evidence, and every physical matchup becomes part of a larger narrative about control, fairness, and visibility. Meanwhile, what often gets lost in all of this noise is just how much pressure Clark plays under every single possession. Defenses do not just guard her, they scheme for her. And yet, despite that constant pressure, she continues to produce plays that force defenses to adjust. Mid-possession. That is part of why the reaction to this incident became so explosive, because fans are already conditioned to watch her under heavy physical scrutiny. So when an uncalled moment appears inside that environment, it feels magnified instantly.
What we just saw tonight was a vintage Caitlin Clark performance. 22 points, 9 assists, 47% from the field, 44% from 3. And by far the best player on the floor, Caitlin Clark just had a fantastic game against the Valkyries. And it was a game where early on the Valkyries were whooping the Fever. They looked better in every single way. They were stronger, faster, and they wanted it more, which is why it seemed like they were going to confidently win this game from the sample size of the first half. But you got to see the Indiana Fever resilience, and you got to see Caitlin Clark rally her team back. But more than that, you got to see that Caitlin Clark ain't no daggone.
The replay breakdowns circulating online have only made things more complicated. Slow motion views show arms, contact points, and timing that different viewers interpret in completely different ways. Some insist the elbow motion is obvious and should have resulted in immediate intervention, while others argue that in real time, it blends into the chaos of rebounding and positioning. That divide is exactly what keeps the controversy alive, because there is no universal agreement even after multiple replays, and that uncertainty is what fuels the demand for stronger punishment after the fact. The idea of suspension is not coming from official channels, but from fans who believe that if the league wants to maintain consistency, then missed calls of this nature cannot simply disappear into post-game silence. Players do not get the benefit of rewinds or replays in real time, and referees have to make instant decisions in crowded spaces where visibility is limited. But fans are not watching in real time anymore. They are watching in slow motion, frame by frame, and that changes the entire perception of what happened. The result is a widening gap between live officiating and post-game analysis, and this incident sits directly in the middle of that gap.
To say what you had to say? What did you have to say, man? Oh man, hey, hold on. This not it though. Yeah, me and you, Tiffany. Me and you. I want all that smoke. Hey, give it to look, she like, get out my effing face. Caitlin like, yeah, I'm there. What's up? You out here cooking people, huh? You got your little cross and your little back step 3 and you started popping off, huh?
What makes it even more intriguing is how quickly narratives form around star players. Every physical moment involving Clark becomes amplified, every reaction becomes analyzed, and every missed whistle becomes part of a larger storyline about how the game is being managed around high-profile athletes. Whether that perception is accurate or not, it has now become part of the public conversation surrounding these games. And as that conversation grows, so does the pressure on officials, coaches, and even league decision-makers to respond to the fallout. Because at this point, it is no longer just about one play, and it is about whether high-profile matchups are being officiated with the same standard every single time. The final question hanging over everything is simple, but uncomfortable. If this moment had been called differently in real time, would any of this noise exist at all? Or is this just another example of how one missed decision can turn a single possession into a full-blown controversy that refuses to fade away?
Caitlin Clark just shut down some of the genuinely ridiculous fan theories about why she missed the Portland game. Some people online convinced themselves that Clark's late scratch on Wednesday was some sort of punishment, whether it was for the pre-January Benz incident earlier this week, Steph White trying to assert her dominance, or the Fever waiting to rule her out for ticket sale reasons. When in reality, Clark explained on Friday that it was much simpler than that. She was hurt. Her back was sore, and she didn't want to risk making things worse, especially this early in the season. She even talked about how frustrating it was mentally because of how badly she wanted to play, which made these conspiracy theories look even sillier afterwards. At this point,
And as the clips keep circulating and the arguments keep building, one thing is certain: this story is not ending anytime soon. Because in today's game, nothing stays in the game once the internet decides it deserves a second look. And that is exactly why the pressure around this moment is not fading, because every new replay adds another layer instead of settling anything. And the more angles people see, the more divided the reaction becomes, as if the same sequence is somehow telling two completely different stories depending on who is watching and what they already believe about how these games are being managed. What keeps dragging it forward is the feeling that this was not just a random physical exchange, but part of a much bigger pattern, where intensity builds quickly and control from officials becomes harder to recognize in real time, especially when players are already locked into aggressive defensive matchups, and every possession feels like it carries extra weight beyond the scoreboard.
Because what the physicality actually did was pull the crowd into the game. The building got louder. There's now buzz into the arena, and the Indiana Fever started playing with an edge. But that's where it gets interesting, because for some players, that emotion turns them off. But for Caitlin Clark, that switches her on. Despite having 6 turnovers and being 1 foul away from fouling out, she still finished with 22 points, 9 assists, 7 of 15 shooting from the floor in a major comeback win. Because when things get chippy, that crowd gets loud. And when that crowd gets loud, Caitlin turns that into...
And in the middle of that, Caitlin Clark continues to be at the center of attention on every single touch, drawing bodies, contact, and immediate pressure that forces her into decisions before she even fully settles into position, which only adds more fuel to the argument that physicality around her is becoming normalized to a point where fans are no longer surprised, only divided on whether it is being handled fairly. And that is where the conversation shifts again, because it is no longer just about what happened during that play, but about what should happen next up, whether the league steps in with additional review, whether penalties remain as they are, or whether the moment simply gets absorbed into the growing list of controversial plays that fans continue to revisit long after the final whistle has blown.